All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome everybody. Like I said, of course, with me, today again we have to talk to the international community, guys. Myself and brother Chernobyl of the Africanist Press is with me here. We're gonna start this live, and guys, we're gonna do this in English. Maybe at some point we'll break into Creole, but I'll let brother Cherno also talk on that as far as what he wants us to do, and we'll take it from there. But I think because our message is geared towards mostly the international community at this point, because the fight is a big fight. So everybody go ahead and share, and so more folks could join us, and then we'll take it from there. But on the interim, let me just introduce brother Chernoba, who is on the screen here. We're gonna come discuss some of these issues. Brother Chernoba, go ahead and tell Fambolem hello for us, and tell the folks hello for us.
Yes. Hello, everyone, and thank you very much, Ibrahim, for bringing me at this show. I'm very happy and thrilled to be here. This is the first time experiencing this wonderful platform, and I look forward to the conversation. Thank you for having me here.
Absolutely. You're welcome, Brother Chernobyl. So, Salon people, of course, Brother Chernobyl, are you okay with us just doing this in English? Or,
So, what do you think?
okay, because I was thinking, because the international community is there as well, listening to this. I was thinking we do it in English,
Okay,
and maybe
no problem. Yeah, let's do that.
as we go, we can, break in between. But everybody go ahead and share. And I'm going to let some videos play for the time being. But what we're going to focus on are certain issues that are very pertinent in times like these. We have the Elections Act and all of these, issues at play. We have the chance rebuilding in New York. All of these are issues that are at play. We want to expose these things and bring it out and continue to expose the SLPP government. So everybody go ahead, share the live. And like I said again, I'm going to play some videos here to get you all started, but go ahead and share. I'll take this opportunity, everybody, to share, and then we'll take it from there. So let's watch this video.
You promised, and one of your campaign slogans was to really try to root out corruption in Sierra Leonean government. You investigated your predecessor's administration. You made it a focus, especially early on. Fast forward 3 years, looking around you, what do you think Sierra Leoneans make of how you have handled corruption?
Well, corruption was endemic in this country. It was fashionable. It was a way of life. What we have done, or what I have done, is to make it very risky. It is to make it difficult and to make it not fashionable anymore. With the use of the Anti-Corruption Commission, we have been able to recover quite a lot of money from those who acquired monies illegally. When we came in, they rated us. Our control of corruption index was about 47%. Today, we are in the 80s. In the past 3 years, we have made progress every year.
President Bio, though, your chief minister has been accused of corruption, and your wife, the First Lady, has also been accused of corruption, misusing public funds. How are they being held accountable?
It is easy to accuse or make allegations that any member of my family or the government is corrupt. We have a system. You have to prove that, you have to produce evidence. So without that, I can say you are corrupt, even when I cannot see. I hardly have any dealings to do with you. Whenever there is any claim of corruption, the Anti-Corruption Commission is free to go and investigate, and where there is evidence of wrongdoing, as far as monies are concerned for the state, we will take action.
So let me get this straight. If it is proven, President Bio, if it is proven, that the Chief Minister and the First Lady, your wife, have actually misused public funds, how will they be held accountable?
Well, there's a prescription for whatever happens. If that is the case, and it's proven in a court of law or by the commission, they either ask to pay for it, or there are different forms of punishment for that. And they will have to.
On top of that, you recently hired a brand new finance minister who was accused of long-standing corruption in the previous administration. What message does that send to Sierra Leoneans?
Again, you've used the word accused. And he has had to go through a very long legal process to prove that he is not guilty. So, like I said earlier, it is easier. Anybody can make such claims, outlandish claims, or that the other person is corrupt. But we are a law-abiding country, and we go through the entire length to make sure that when claims or allegations are made, we prove them in a court of law, and then we take the necessary actions.
You promised, and one of your campaign slogans was to really try to root out corruption in Syria.
Ladies and gentlemen, of course, that is just one of the videos that I'm going to play. But get to share this video so more people can come. So once we get started, we're not slowing down. We don't want to, go back and have to reel over again. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. Of course, again, like I said, we have the Africanist Press. And I'm going to cue one more video. You saw there the president defending his wife and other people in his administration. And we know the beautiful work the Africanist Press has done. First of all, let me just take this time to just, say this. A lot of what we were doing, if not for the Africanist Press, it would have been so difficult. But the Africanist Press and his team, Mr. Chenoba and his team, gave us the opportunity to be able to come back and give you guys evidences upon evidences. I mean, if you guys have seen the page of the Africanist Press, the website, let me put it up here so everybody can see this, because it's very important for you guys to see these things.
One of your campaign slogans was
to understand that this is very crucial today. The website of the Africanist Press is a treasure trove of information. So for you guys that are, a lot of you guys don't take the time to read through this. I don't want you guys to just focus on, videos. But this is the website of the Africanist Press. Take the time to visit it. www.africanistpress.com. Visit the website. Read through. These are some of the issues. These are some of the publications that are there. So we want to say many, many thanks, to the Africanist Press. Because to talk is one thing, but to have evidences to back up what you do is another thing. And that's the beautiful thing of the Africanist Press. And that is how we help people like us to come out here and be able to give you guys this information. So we appreciate him. I just want to take this opportunity, first of all, to say that. And I know Sierra Leoneans understand that when we are this is hypothetical, right? If we are using, say, handguns in a warfare, the Africanist Press is like the B-52 bomber, right? It is the B-52 bomber that comes across and everything is silent. This man has single-handedly, it's a collective effort, I get it, but single-handedly, the Africanist Press has actually exposed and destroyed and decimated the SLPP government of President Bio, because these guys came with a false pretense to say, oh, we're going to fight corruption, we want to fight corruption, but lo and behold, all they were doing is just masking, their hypocrisy. These guys have drained and destroyed the economy of Sierra Leone within 4 years because of massive corruption, tribalization of our institutions across the board. My brothers, bringing all their people into governance. This has destroyed Sierra Leone. But thank God for the Africanist Press in the picture. Brother Cheno, I'm going to bring you in again one more time. And I'm going to cue one more video. But talk to me about that interview on CNN with President Bio. What do you think about that interview? When you saw that interview, what was it like? Talk to me about that. Unmute.
No, we were not surprised that that interview was actually, showed exactly the extent to which the Africanist Press publications had reached. That interview in itself, I think, alerted the government of Sierra Leone that the work of the Africanist Press was being watched by international organizations, including the CNN, and other international media organizations and institutions across the world. So it wasn't a surprise to us. We knew the Africanist Press website has, at this point, over 500,000 subscribers. These are people who are actively subscribed to our website. So every publication that we release goes directly to their own emails. They get copies of it. And if we check the subscriber base, we do not have more than, at this point, if I'm right, more than 500 people from Sierra Leone who are on that mailing list. So it means that more than 500,000, of our subscribers are people located outside of the borders of Sierra Leone, non-Sierra Leoneans, who include policymakers, journalists, academics, researchers. So that's a global outreach, a global network of readers who engage in different parts of, in different human activities. So this is why it wasn't a surprise that the CNN could basically put questions to the president that, information that directly was related to some of the publications that we have put out around that time. So, and the CNN was not the only international organization, media organization that had actually picked up some of the issues. By the time the CNN did that interview, the work of the Africanist Press had already been discussed by the BBC, the German broadcaster Deutsche Welle, and a couple of other newspapers across Europe, France 24, RFI in France, Radio France International, and I think also News 24 from South Africa. And if you remember very well, the Associated Press did issue out a statement that goes out to multiple media channels, including Yahoo News. So it wasn't a surprise for us, but I think it came as a surprise to the president of Sierra Leone. As you can see in that interview, he was very much embarrassed because he did not expect that he was going to be asked about corruption relating to his wife.
Right.
So, and the important thing about that is that we have a president who was facing the international community, and he was not being asked about questions relating to economic development in the country, but about the corruption relating to his wife. Yeah. That is to say, the level of the corruption in Sierra Leone had assumed some kind of a family enterprise. It's a racketeering enterprise that's run by the president and his family members.
Yep.
And which was something we had highlighted, that the corruption in Sierra Leone, the higher levels of corruption, it starts with the presidency, the chief minister's office, the minister of finance, and the wife of the president.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
That was a statement by itself.
Yeah, it was. And that takes me to the next video I want to cue, because we want to take it from there. And I'm going to ask you this question. Why is it that members of parliament have not summoned the courage to be able to bring up this Africanist Press publications to the purview, to the world? Matter of fact, elections is next year. Why is it that members of parliament, with all the information that you've given over the years, why is it that they cannot use this material evidences that you've given to go out there and reach out to the rest of the world and reach out to Sierra Leoneans, using your publications? So let me cue that next video so people will see. And this video is from the BBC, Umaru Fofana. I want you guys to listen to this.
National treasury, that is hundreds of thousands of US dollars, have been illegally used to furnish the office of the First Lady. The allegations, which are made by the US-based organization Africanist Press, also say the same office received millions of dollars from the national treasury, despite it not being a public office. Umaru Fofana has been looking at the allegations.
I'm sitting in my car along the Freetown Peninsula. This is Bendembo Junction. Here, overlooking the Atlantic Ocean, is a 3-story cream-colored building. On its gate is a palm print with the inscription, "Hands off our girls." There are armed security personnel keeping guard outside the building. This is the office of the First Lady of Sierra Leone. Billions of leones, that is hundreds of thousands of US dollars, are alleged to have gone into furnishing the office of Fatima Maadabio, as contained in the Africanist Press. The publication says the amount is part of millions of dollars from the Central Treasury that have gone into running an office which is not a public office and so cannot and should not be funded with taxpayers' money. Cherna Alphaba is the editor-in-chief of the Africanist Press. He gave me the highlights of their report via WhatsApp from the United States.
In the last 2.5 years of the administration, at least a total of $3 million of government funds were illegally disbursed to the office of the First Lady. We were able to see that, for example, in 2018, a total of $789,000 that were disbursed from the consolidated fund to the organization. We are spent in 6 months on furnishing the office of the First Lady on questions of electronic equipment, on fuel, travel tickets, and hotel accommodation costs for foreign guests of the president's wife. According to the laws of Sierra Leone, the financial regulations, a non-state institution is not authorized to receive public funding.
But Fatima Bio has strenuously denied any wrongdoing.
You are in my office, and I don't think you can spend 700. I don't even know how much the money was that he was talking about. What I have here, I have a desk, I have a sofa chair for people to sit, and I have a conference table here. It's definitely not true.
Chernobyl has further alleged that money that should have gone into the fight against the widespread sexual abuse of girls went into ostentatiousness.
The public money that was given to the organization for the fight against rape and teenage pregnancy were mostly spent on personal shopping needs. But most importantly, both the disbursement, the budgetary allocations were in violation of the finance laws of the country, and the utilization of the funds, did not follow the finance regulations, especially the Public Finance Management Act.
The First Lady explained to us how she receives money for the running of her office.
As far as I know, every First Lady before me, when they want something, they go to State House and they write. The office of the First Lady is part and parcel of the presidency. So if you want a table, you write to the office of the president. They buy the table and they brings it. How it is sourced, who sourced it, how much was paid, that is not my own concern because they don't consult me on those things.
So the office did receive funding from the Consolidatory Revenue Fund, but through the office of the president. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying my office writes to the office of the president. So where they got the money from, I don't know. I wasn't there. I don't know where they took it from.
How about when you launched your Hands Off Our Girls campaign, which is to protect young girls against predatory men? You invited some West African first ladies to attend. Did you pay for their flights and accommodation?
I paid for the accommodation. That is what happened to when I visit them. The President of the Republic of Sierra Leone puts together the Hands Off Our Girl campaign. I am the face of the project.
So you are sure that all the procurements that happened legally, procedurally?
Like I said, those are questions that only the office of the president can answer.
I contacted the office of the president through the head of communication, Dr. Patrick Mwana. He assured me that the information minister would talk. Following a meeting at State House, apparently on the interview request, Information Minister Mohamed Rahman Soare called me to say no one would take the interview. I contacted the head of the Anti-Corruption Commission, Francis Benkaifala, to know whether or not they had looked into the matter. Not yet, he said, adding, and I quote, "The office is captured under audit and we will do her part as part of that review process."
Umaru Fofana reporting there. Now,
all right. So, Brother Cherno, this has been established as far as the thieving of the office of the First Lady. That has been established. That is not the purpose of this, right? But again, this, like you said earlier about the interview with the CNN, and the fact that these international organizations, Deutsche Welle, BBC, CNN, these are credible organizations. They have whole departments set up just to ensure that they do proper checks on every article or publication being put out there before they say anything about it. It goes through phases of scrutiny to ensure that they are speaking up about the right things and they're not making up anything. If these organizations, Mr. Chernobyl, and this is the question for Sierra Leoneans as well, because you as a Sierra Leonean, these are the questions we want you guys to ask the MPs. We know about the 2 bills that are in Parliament right now. The MPs are doing what they could do. We'll talk about that later on. But you have a responsibility as Sierra Leoneans, and this is why we say we want to talk to the international community directly. As Sierra Leoneans now, we have a responsibility to ask the leaders in Parliament, especially in the opposition, why is it that these international organizations, broadcasting services, have so much respect for the work of the Africanist Press, but these leaders cannot sum up the courage to bring these discussions? Some of them don't even have the guts to mention the Africanist Press. So, Brother Charoba, I know these are things you've been talking about, and that is why we're coming from a different perspective today, because we're going to take this conversation elsewhere. But tell me, why in this democracy we have opposition that are supposed, you made the work of these opposition people, the members of parliament, so easy. They didn't have to do anything else other than just sit on this world of information and bring it out to the people. But why is it that members of parliament have not some of the courage, Brother Cherno? Talk to us about that front.
Yes, thank you very much. It's not just the members of parliament, but I'm glad that you are highlighting the failure or the inability of the reluctance of the members of parliament to look into questions that relate to the management of finances, because in the general sense of the word, no government agency or individual is authorized to spend public money without the approval of parliament. That is the function of parliament.
Absolutely.
And that includes the fact that parliament receives the appropriation bill and the budgetary estimates for every year from the Ministry of Finance. And then they debate that and also approve the budgetary estimates, approve the appropriation bill, and they give a finance act to the Ministry of Finance that authorizes them to use, generate, and spend public money. So in this case, we highlighted and produced evidence showing clearly that a non-state agency or an individual who is not supposed to receive public funds has been receiving public funds for consistently 3 years and has been also spending those monies, without following the required law, rules, and regulations that govern the utilization of public funds.
Yeah.
So that's like a double crime. In the first place, we were able to establish with concrete financial evidence showing that the wife of the president, who is not supposed to be a direct recipient of public money, had been receiving public money since the arrival in office of her husband, the current president, Julius Maada Bio. And we did not only show that this situation has happened once, but we showed that it has been happening consistently from the very first month that the president took office, since he took office in 2018. And we produced, records. And the first thing that happened was the wife of the president came and addressed the public. In a public address, she admitted that she had actually received public money. And that in itself is an admission to an offense. So, but coming to what you have just raised, the question around what did Parliament do? It was the responsibility of Parliament to invite the Minister of Finance, the Governor of the Bank of Sierra Leone, or the finance officials to Parliament and raise questions on, why did they allocate or disburse public money to the wife of the president without the knowledge and approval of Parliament in the first place? Whether the Minister of Finance had a reason to argue that was a secret financial operation. It was an illegal secret financial operation.
Yeah.
So the utilization of the funds which did not comply with the finance regulations of the country, the procurement regulations and all of that is on one side. The allocation in itself was an illegal expenditure. So what did Parliament do? The leaders of Parliament, the APC leadership in Parliament and the NGC leadership in Parliament, they collectively wrote a joint letter to the Minister of Finance and the bank governor requesting clarification whether the publications were actually factual, that they had seen these evidence of these transactions, because as far as they were concerned, these financial transactions were never approved by them. They were unaware of it. Okay, that letter, we have a copy of that letter. But interestingly, you must note, by the time these parliamentarians, the leaders of Parliament, wrote that letter, the news had already reached the BBC. It was already the subject of international media discussion. And to tell you what we found interesting was the fact that the leader, the NGC leader and the APC leadership of Parliament, they could not cite or credit, they could not cite the fact that the Africanist Press published this. They said they have heard about it on the BBC, on Deutsche Welle, and on social media. Can you imagine?
They left the source. Yes.
Yes. So they said on social media. And even the BBC in its report acknowledged the fact that the revelations or the disclosure of this clandestine operation, the illegal allocation of public funds to the wife of the president, was released by the US-based news organization, the Africanist Press.
Yes.
Every international media institution had said that, has cited that, because that is best practice. It is a principled thing to do. But our parliamentarians, who pretended they wanted to act on it, decided that they were going to ignore mentioning the Africanist Press, but we are comfortable to accord the credit to the BBC, the Deutsche Welle, and all of that. So on our own point, we knew right there that those parliamentarians were being dishonest, that they were not sincere in their so-called effort to find out. In fact, there was no basis for them to find out because the wife of the president at that time had already admitted that she received those funds, both on her Facebook address to the public and also during her interview with the BBC. In fact, she had provided two conflicting stories. Okay? She had basically lied to the public in Freetown and to the BBC, and in other places where she had claimed that she was not a recipient of public funds. So on that note alone, the Parliament never had any business to write to the Minister of Finance other than writing an invitation asking the Minister of Finance and the bank governor to come to Parliament and answer to questions regarding how did they allocate or assign public money to the president. In any advanced democracies where parliaments actually function, where parliaments discharge their responsibility, that in itself will have been the opportunity for Parliament to question the legitimacy of the presidency. In other parts of the world, Parliament will even decide to execute a process to even impeach the president.
Absolutely.
Okay? They will even order the arrest of the Minister of Finance. Okay? They will even order that, because of criminal activity, for the Minister of Finance to allocate, and for the bank governor and the Accountant General's office, all of these agencies who are responsible for managing public finances, they established a bank account without the knowledge of Parliament, and they were secretly providing funding, budgetary allocations to the wife of the president, budgetary allocations that superseded the allocations of other government ministries, agencies, and departments. So Parliament had all the evidence to act. They refused to act. And their refusal to act, the fact that it's not just their refusal to mention the Africanist Press in the letter, but also their pretense that they wanted to act. But the reason why they could not mention the Africanist Press was very strategic. And I will tell you why.
Please tell us.
International organizations were waiting to see what the government of Sierra Leone will do, what the transparency institutions will do. And this is very important because the government of Sierra Leone, especially the Madabio government, has been operating its finances on loans, debts, credits, both domestic borrowing and external borrowing, and also grants. And part of the criteria, part of the lending criteria, the eligibility is that you have to maintain internal controls, internal audit controls. You have to strengthen internal audit controls. You have to be transparent.
Absolutely.
And for 2 years, when the government, for 2 years of the Madabio administration, they had built and sold a false narrative dealing with the fact that they were fighting corruption. And the evidence they were using was evidence of the ongoing harassment of the opposition. All of the cases, the anti-corruption evidence that was being presented and shown to the world were cases that involved officials of the previous government. So even when officials of the previous government were telling the world that the fight against corruption in Sierra Leone was a weapon against organized opposition in the country, it was very difficult for the international community to listen to it because as the government's counter-argument to that particular point was that they have to hold previous leaders accountable in order to deter the present crop of administrators, ministers, and executive officials from undertaking or partaking in the same kind of activities that preceded their own administration.
Absolutely.
So what we decided to show was that the corruption in itself is a dynamic organism, is a living organism.
Yep.
It was an ongoing thing, that we cannot just focus on corruption in the past, because if we do that, we risk losing evidence of the ongoing corruption of the Madabio administration. That we have to look at corruption not just as a past event, but as an ongoing activity that has been heightened.
Yes.
Through innovative mechanisms adopted by the current regime, and it has been masked by the collaborative support of institutions that will have provided an alternative dialogue around the existing corruption that was ongoing under the Bio administration. So basically, the alliance that the government had built with the media, civil society, and by extension, sectors of the transparency institutions in the country, the Anti-Corruption Commission, and the accountability wing of the parliament, had prevented the international world to have a real independent appraisal of what the government was doing as far as transparency efforts were concerned.
Absolutely.
So if the parliamentarians had mentioned that they were investigating the Africanist Press publications and named Africanist Press, they would have provided the international organizations an opportunity to intervene right there.
Right.
In carrying out their own independent investigations. So they felt that by refusing to mention the Africanist Press, they were basically telling the world that we want to investigate, but we do not think this is evidence enough.
Yes.
So that is what they were basically saying in their letter. And to tell you that was just, but when we published that, what they also thought about, and don't forget the Anti-Corruption Commission, the ACC, decided that it was going to investigate, because now it was already an international media scandal.
Yep.
Since it was referenced in the BBC, Deutsche Welle, and these other media institutions,
they had no choice.
The international community was now raising questions to the Anti-Corruption Commission.
Right.
And then the Anti-Corruption Commission claimed that it was going to investigate, but it will have to start the investigation
15
with the previous government.
Absolutely.
Right. And why did they do that? That was an effort also to pretend that they were committed to fighting corruption, even if it includes people in their own administration. So what the government did not know, or what the politicians in parliament and outside of parliament did not realize at the time, was that our investigation was not just one that was centered on the First Lady, that our investigation in fact covers the entire administration.
Yep.
So when they made the commitment to investigate the First Lady and said they were going backwards, so then we enlarged the scope of the investigation.
Right.
By then saying we are now going to look at the office of the Chief Minister. And because there was no preceding Chief Minister, there was no history of a Chief Minister,
right,
other than the Chief Minister we had, the Prime Minister period, or Chief Minister before independence.
Exactly.
They had no way of tracking back, to the previous administration. So that was why Parliament never followed up. The parliamentarians found out that this was not something they were going to play with, because they did not know what was coming next.
Right.
So everybody in the political establishment, across parties, people in the leading sectors of the opposition, in parliament, politicians in the ruling party, civil servants across ministries, agencies, and departments, and then their allies in the media and in civil society, and the business community became worried.
Right.
Because now this was not just publications that had to do with the office of the first, or one minor politician, but it was now publications that were coming out with factual transactions, evidence-based transactions, relating to the everyday financial operation of leading officials in the government.
Yep.
The right at the top, the Chief Minister and the wife of the president. So by showing those two people, we basically put the president right there on the test.
Yep.
in front of the global world, in front of the national audience of Sierra Leone and the international audience.
Yeah.
By saying, when we told you, the international community and international organizations who were rating Madabio and his administration as a government that was committed to fighting corruption, you said you wanted evidence. So now we are showing you, we're going to put this man to the test so you can see whether what they are telling you, what the media has been telling you. And we told them, you have not been able to look at the corruption in the current administration because they have stampeded, they organized a stampede using the corruption of the past to cover up their own ongoing corruption.
Yep.
And they sold a false narrative that was supported by the media, sections of the media in Sierra Leone, and civil society, which made it impossible for you, international organizations, to see the reality on the ground.
Yep.
So they told us, show us Africanist Press if that is the case. So then we said, okay. So we showed the wife of the president, and it went to the BBC. They said, okay. And then Parliament said they were going to find out. They pretended they wanted to find out, and the Commission said they wanted to investigate.
Yeah.
Because at the time they only felt we were just after the First Lady. In fact, some people who wanted to defend the First Lady tried to pretend that it was a personal conflict between Chernobyl and the First Lady, or that Chernobyl wanted an appointment. So they made it personal. They did not know that it was a large-scale operation to show that we are dealing with a very corrupt, massively corrupt, kleptocratic regime in power, which was also very skillful and deceitful in deceiving the international community about its so-called commitment to fighting corruption, when in actual fact, it was deep in corruption, and that its own corruption was innovative, skillful, and also covered by an effort that it has made to capture the entire, what you call the structures of the state.
Of the state. State capture.
Yeah, state capture. Every transparency institution or organization that would have served as a check to executive power and executive operation, including the financial operation of the executive arm of government, was effectively put under the payroll and control of the presidency.
Absolutely.
So in that case, it was impossible for people who they were unable to buy, they had intimidated and forced into silence.
Yeah.
So when we told people that you are missing the point, so we were challenged to show the evidence. So then my team decided that what we have to do is what we call a surgical approach to journalism.
Yes.
You know, it is the equivalent of a medical doctor walking into a lab or receiving a patient and then telling the patient that, well, I have done a laboratory examination of your blood test and all of that, and now I can see that you are really you are infected with multiple diseases, and then the patient still insists that is not the case. So what you do, you force the patient into the theater and then force an operation, and then you forcefully dissect the intestines of the patient and show exactly where the disease is. So that is the kind of journalism that we did. Under normal circumstances, we would not have gone to that length of putting the entire financial record of the country right in front of the global public.
Yes.
Because when you get to the point where you have to publish people's employment data and physical records, it's because you are dealing with a government, a very stubborn and criminal organization, the equivalent of the mafia in power.
Absolutely.
So you have to be very robust, precise, and surgical in your approach.
Yep.
So what the members of parliament did not understand was the depth of our investigation and the extent to which we have gone in unearthing evidence that covers the entire administration, including even parliament that we have never published anything about.
Right.
And which we by the way, we intend to look at. Let me say that today.
Absolutely.
So when members of parliament pretended that they also wanted to find out whether these transactions that they did not approve have actually happened, and they refused to mention, what they did not realize was that we were not just dealing with the First Lady, that the First Lady's issue was just a tiny aspect of our effort to illustrate
Absolutely.
It was just a tiny example to illustrate the extent of the high-profile nature of corruption under the Bio administration.
Yeah.
So then, when we enlarged the illustrative, the process of illustration and incorporated or included the chief minister's office, the entire establishment was paralyzed.
Yep.
They could no longer act because that were two great examples. One was the wife of the president. It was impossible for the president to even arrest his wife. And by the way, the wife of the president cannot undertake that kind of financial operation without the blessing and knowledge and authorization of the president.
Absolutely.
And the wife of the president did say that when I want something, I tell my husband, and my husband tells his finance minister to order them. So basically, every money I've received was ordered by my husband. That's what she told the BBC. That's basically what's the meaning of her statement.
Yeah.
So when we included the chief minister, we were basically showing people who are closer to the president, who will not act without the blessing of the president and his knowledge.
Yeah.
And by the way, that chief minister, David Francis, has a close relationship with the president because he's a supervisor. He's so-called PhD supervisor at the time. So these are two people he will not do anything about, even if they are corrupt. So you find out that when we published the chief minister's office, the anti-corruption could not even say a word about it. Then what did the government decide to do was to employ a media campaign against me. But when we got, they then started realizing that, oh, this might be something larger than we imagined.
Yes.
So they went into silence. So first, they paid journalists, and they raised them. So when they decided to respond, then we enlarged. Now we further enlarged the investigation and incorporated the president himself.
Absolutely, to show that he's part of it.
By the time we included the presidency, the president decided that he's going to come out now to defend himself. So they spent, with the assistance of people in parliament, I will tell you, there were politicians in the opposition in parliament who collaborated with the president and worked behind the scenes.
Wow.
And journalists to carry out a rehearsal. The president basically rehearsed for 3 weeks. Now he was forced to come out because there was nobody in the government now who was capable, including the media, to defend the government against the hard evidence. So for the international community, it was like a spectacle that was happening in front of their eyes. Africanist Press versus the government of Sierra Leone. And now it's like you have a match, like you have, I don't know, for people who watch this Premier League, English Premier Leagues or European Premier Leagues, the equivalence of, you can help me with that because I look at
I'm very terrible in that.
World Cup and all that, but it's the equivalent where you have two interesting football teams that were in a pitch.
Right. So Manchester United and Arsenal, as an example.
Something like that.
Yes.
But in this case, the government was not to the match of the Africanist Press. We were more sophisticated and robust because we are ready.
Absolutely.
But why I'm giving that analogy is basically to tell you what the world was looking at. Okay, so these global organizations who we had earlier told that this situation, you are missing the situation in Sierra Leone, wanted to see exactly what it is, and now we started showing, and the government, so they were watching the state of play. So it's like an entertainment was happening in front of their eyes.
Absolutely.
And every time, every little detail and every publication was like
it was just like the wedge was just kept coming. Just sticking a fork in it.
It's like when you have a football team that is of quality and precision.
Right.
Where you just give passes to one another that is so clean and so straightforward.
Right.
That the opposing team will have nothing but to just stand and enjoy even the performance by itself.
Absolutely.
So for us, that was a kind of amusement. I have basically worked in the media in Sierra Leone and outside of Sierra Leone at minimum of 20 years. But under normal circumstances, I will not go to that length to demonstrate, evidence of what I'm talking about in terms of showing international partners or people who are interested, who have missed the reality of the situation.
Yeah.
What was actually the case.
Yes.
So for myself, it was even an entertainment by itself, because I was faced with a situation where I had to. It was an effort to. It was an exercise, like like an amusement game that you're playing now.
Uh-huh.
So basically, to emphasize, to come to the actual point.
Yes.
Parliament, they took the president into a rehearsal to rehearse. That was in April 2021, if you remember.
Yes.
So the president decided to rehearse, to come out now on his own to defend his government, his wife, his chief minister, and the entire administration against the publications of the Africanist Press. And one way they wanted to do it was to talk on the issues without necessarily mentioning the Africanist Press, because pronouncing the Africanist Press was like a verdict, because the international community, these spectators who were waiting to see what is going to happen.
Exactly.
And they are very well aware of that.
Yes.
They are very well aware of that, because many of these people have worked in the NGO world. The government is staffed by people with, it's made up of people whose business is just to cook the books, to cook.
Yep.
We have the current administration is made up of experts in developing innovative mechanisms to steal money.
Yeah.
So they know also how to interact with the international community.
Yes.
Okay, international organizations, and they know what these people are looking for. So they were aware that there was already an audience of arbitrators who were standing there waiting to decide.
Yep.
To make the verdict, to decide, to arbitrate in this state of play that was happening. So they decided to marshal their own defense, to come, and basically their approach was to trivialize, to trivialize the publication by
the work you do.
What we are publishing is normal. This is the way governments operate. This is how things are done.
Yep.
But that there's nothing extraordinary. But so that was their effort, and then they wanted to do this by just dismissing the Africanist Press. So what did they do? They mobilized the media behind the scenes. They mobilized civil society behind the scenes, and they mobilized the contractors, the business people in Sierra Leone. So we saw the first alliance of the media, the first effort carried out by the media, the civil society, and a section of the business class in Sierra Leone that are in bed with these are people who receive contracts, whose names and companies have appeared in some of the transactions we've talked about, and they are worried.
Yes.
So they want to rescue the government. So that was when the president came out and organized a media campaign. A town hall was organized.
Yep.
For the president in April 2021.
Yep.
To respond. So how did they start we knew about the preparation. We knew that journalists were even camped at the at the Radisson Blu.
Yes.
Or Bintumani it was, in preparing, rehearsing for this. So for professional reasons, I will not name names, but you already know. You remember these events. You remember
exactly.
So we knew this was happening behind the scenes, so we are also prepared. To the extent that we knew exactly some of the issues they wanted to raise as a way to counter, without necessarily mentioning the Africanist Press. And some of those issues include the fact that the president has been advised to come and lie that he was traveling to repair the image of the country.
Yep.
Because we have a country that has suffered from war, Ebola, mudslide, and all that, and that to the extent that he went to Japan and he was thrown out in a hotel because he had not paid money. So we knew some of these things were part of the things that he wanted to tell the public.
Right.
And because we knew this was what he was going to come and say, we decided to prepare. We had researched the Japan trip. We had researched, in fact, we had, we already had some of the evidence, the transactions of his operation, of his travels, everywhere he has gone. Some of it, the people of Sierra Leone do not even know about. Because I will tell you, there are places that the president has visited, especially in 2019, that
Right.
people do not know about, that we have not even published
Yeah.
about up to now. Up to now. So I can
Absolutely.
talk about you. The
Yeah.
president don't travel go na country then secretly when I don't even know inside through 2019. And things
Uh-huh.
I will tell you that we have not even published yet the 2019 travel record of the president, because you know why? It is every time we look at it, it tells us something different.
Right.
Something different. And this is his travel record of 2019 is going to be, I will announce it, part of the election stories that we are going to publish.
Beautiful.
So anyway, to come back to your point,
Right.
in April 2021, the president came out and then went to SLBC to talk about his so-called third year. So they framed it as a celebration of his third year anniversary, was highlighting his achievements.
Right.
So he went to SLBC. We waited. We did not say anything. He went to AYV. And then we posted, oh, he's defending corruption. So he said on AYV was when he repeated this, first made the statement that he was kicked out of a hotel in Japan. So we
Yes.
did not respond that day. We wanted to see what he will do. So because we did not respond, and then the media, we wanted to also see the reaction of the media, the entire social media space. And all the journalists, if you go back to April 2021, on that specific day, you look at every journalist you know in Sierra Leone, what they posted and what they tweeted or what they wrote was they were glorifying not what the president was saying, but they were praising him for the fact that he is the first
Pointed
president
out.
that has visited radio stations to subject himself to public scrutiny. Basically, he was not talking to the people of Sierra Leone, he was talking to the international community who were now looking at what this drama that was happening. He was telling them,
the state did not give me even water on my wedding.
What? Right. Right. So, but to the Africanist Press, to the point that we're trying to make, right? Again, members of parliament, you the people, we're giving you the responsibility. Why is this members of parliament in opposition? Why is it that these members of parliament in opposition, specifically the leaders of the major political parties in the opposition, why is it that they've not summed up the courage to bring up the Africanist Press publications out there, use this as a campaign tool? Elections is coming up next year. This should be campaign. You go through the Africanist page after page, publication after publication. It's enough juice for these members of parliament to use to take the message out there to the rest of Sierra Leoneans that don't know. Brother China, we're gonna switch to the the Chancery building case. But before I even do that, you know why some of these things are passionate? You know why I'm passionate about some of these things, Brother China? This is what I want to do for Sierra Leoneans. Brother China, I know you've been following up some of my lives that I do. You see all these sick people. Access to healthcare is a big problem in our country today. You look at these little kids, struggling and suffering. I'm going to play a short video so people can see why we're doing what we're doing, the why behind. Because when these guys, the president and the first lady and all these governments, the chief minister, former chief minister David Francis, what they're doing is crimes against humanity with the level of corruption that is actually going on in the country. And this has taken away the basic social services that the people should be able to enjoy. So when you take kids like these, let me show a video of this nature. When you take kids like these, it's hard for us to see that these kids are going through what they are going through today, and we cannot help these kids to meet their, to meet them where they're at with these problems that they're suffering from. Let me just Let me show you guys this, because I want people to understand why we're doing what we're doing. It is very crucial. It is very important, so that everybody understands that this is very serious, and we cannot play with this. Let me show you guys this. Guys, sorry about that. I have this but let me play this video first. I'll be right back, guys. Let's watch this video.
National treasure, that is hundreds of thousands of US dollars, have been illegally used to furnish the office of the First Lady. The allegations, which are made by the US-based organization Africanist Press, also say the same office received millions of dollars from the national treasury, despite it not being a public office. Umaru Fofana has been looking at the allegations.
I'm sitting in my car along the Freetown Peninsula. This is Bendembo Junction. Here, overlooking the Atlantic Ocean, is a three-story cream-colored building. On its gate is a palm print with the inscription, "Hands off our girls." There are armed security personnel keeping guard outside the building. This is the office of the First Lady of Sierra Leone. Billions of leones, that is hundreds of thousands of US dollars, are alleged to have gone into furnishing the office of Fatima Maadabio, as contained in the Africanist Press. The publication says the amount is part of millions of dollars from the Central Treasury that have gone into running an office which is not a public office and so cannot and should not be funded with taxpayers' money. Cherna Alphaba is the editor-in-chief of the Africanist Press. He gave me the highlights of their report via WhatsApp from the United States.
In the last 2.5 years of the administration, at least a total of $3 million of government funds were illegally disbursed to the office of the First Lady. We were able to see that, for example, in 2018, a total of $789,000 that were disbursed from the consolidated fund to the organization. We have spent in 6 months on furnishing the office of the First Lady on questions of electronic equipment, on fuel, travel tickets, and hotel accommodation costs for foreign guests of the President's wife. According to the laws of Sierra Leone, the financial regulations, a non-state institution is not authorized to receive public funding.
But Fatima Bio has strenuously denied any wrongdoing.
You are in my office, and I don't think you can spend $700. I don't even know how much the money was that he was talking about. What I have here, I have a desk, I have a sofa chair for people to sit, and I have a conference table here. It's definitely not true.
All right, guys. So, by the way, we've already played this video, when we started the live. But again, let me show you guys why I'm saying why we're doing what we're doing. Watch this video. See these kids that are suffering. Watch this. Watch this.
So what's happening to this people? This begin here. Yeah. When they begin get the accident, they broke the leg. Now in them first hand, they don't broke the foot, they first hand to me. When they first hand to me, now this liar, they first hand give me young one. And they can't die and not get this how they get. That's a candidate. Before I get what I get forget. We can't eat. If you can't like it, then so can't be seen alive. And they take him. That's no more now. They have to from God. Listen. And not that is how they get. That's a candidate.
So I must hear this, but what be your way get the accident?
You don't say now.
I must hear you all now.
This way, you don't
12 years?
Yeah.
Hey, Bo. Baba, you dey go school?
Yeah.
How you dey manage this you put?
Now, so you dey go small.
Hey, Bo. So nobody no ever come for Kaya Puna?
That's what I'm doing. I put her in school. But now the school I dey get today. Saturday and Sunday we can't get no more what you dey use.
What's that one day?
In our salon we dey in a camp.
Which camp?
Section B, radio station under Section B 74.
Esse futebol, esse. Aí bom disse, eh? Aí bom so.
This is why we do what we do, guys. This is why we do what we do. These are the kids that are suffering. Whilst you see the president and all of these other people mismanaging our funds, corruption at the highest level, traveling as they want. This is why we are grateful for the Africanist Press to expose these things so we can see the level of corruption, the crimes against humanity that are currently going on every time these guys are busy stealing money from the people of Sierra Leone. But guys, now let's take this. Because what I want to do is we're going to move to the Chancery building here shortly. So we can talk about that. And this has to do with Dr. Samura Kamara and the SLPP, not even bringing the people that I actually mentioned and the money that has to do with the Chancery building. So we want to bring that up so you guys can see. But let me put a publication first on the screen here so you guys can see exactly what we're talking about, and then we'll break it from there. But this is the publication that we want to talk about. So you're looking at this. Sierra Leone diplomatic mission fails to complete renovation despite transfers of over $3 million US. So we're going to shift the conversation. But I really just wanted the first half that we spent to ask fundamental questions, guys. Why is it that this parliament, Salon people, why this parliament, the leaders of the opposition, why they not sum up courage today to this point for bring up the Africanist Press to set up committees to look into the investigations, to set up investigations and look into these publications from the Africanist Press. These are based on facts, check numbers, account numbers, serial numbers of transaction, all of that, facts. If in an opposition, a sober democracy, where the opposition really cares about the interests of the country, cares about the interests of the people, if the opposition, they are patriotic enough, the opposition leaders and members of parliament are patriotic and they love the country, they want to take care of our people, create opportunities for young people out there, give us electricity, give us clean drinking water, give us proper sanitation. If these guys really care about our country, this is an opportunity that the Africanist Press gave to them. This is like giving a player just a free ball. The goal is open. This is the ball. Just kick the ball into the goal. These guys have missed all of these opportunities. That is why we're asking, what is it why members of parliament can't sum up the courage? That is what the first half of this live was. We're going to close that. But you Sierra Leoneans have a responsibility to ask these members of parliament on that issue. Why can they not use these publications from the Africanist Press, a renowned organization that has been referenced by the BBC? Brother Cheno, even before we go further, you're a scholar, and we all know what is called citations, referencing your sources. So, matter of fact, some of these opposition leaders, they are scholars, they learn book, they go far by education, they've got very fine education. So, for them to commit that crime, in itself, it's plagiarism, because they're not giving, reference to the source. It is wrong. They should not do that. It is a crime. How can some of these guys have all these degrees and these PhDs, but they are failing to adhere to some of these basic principles that would get you towards your degrees? That is a problem, Brother Chen. I don't know if you've ever noted that.
No, let me. I think it goes way beyond just an acknowledgement of, because in real sense, we did not do what we did, hoping that there was going to be any real action. What we wanted to show to the world was that they were dealing with a corrupt regime, that they do not have to depend on the situation in Sierra Leone to assess the government as they were doing. Because why do I say that? Because when we look at the transactional record of the government of Sierra Leone in the last 4 years, I will tell you that some of the companies, some of these transactions end up is an enterprise, is a project. It's like, I don't know if you've watched Don Corleone and the Italian mafia movies, where it's a network of groups and their shared power and economic interest. For example, when you look at the transactional record of the Office of the First Lady, you will find transactions that were made to companies, irregular transactions made to companies. Some of those companies are tied to families of politicians in the opposition and outside of the opposition. So you do not expect some of those individuals to push those issues too far. So it goes beyond the idea of just recognizing the Africanist Press. The work of the Africanist Press has tremendous implication for the entire political establishment, both the politicians in power in the ruling party and some of the leading members of the opposition. And even when their names are not mentioned, but when they see a bank statement and they see the transactions that were carried out to specific companies, specific so-called businesses, you will find that when you push the boundaries too far, what you will find behind a particular transaction, behind a particular company, is a politician that you will not expect. For example, I will tell you 60% or more of the ticket transactions that were made from the local and overseas travel account of the office of the president was paid to a travel agency that is owned and operated by a leading opposition politician who was a leading figure in the previous government, is now a leading figure in the current government.
I can imagine.
So that's just one example. And this is not an isolated, it's many across the entire, all of these transactions.
So the system is just a big mess.
Yeah. Yes, it is a cobweb of rogue transactional operation, which is why none of them will be able to touch it in the real sense. So we basically made it difficult for the government of Sierra Leone, its allies in the opposition and in civil society and the media, to be able to do anything other than to keep silent and ignore what we're doing.
Yes.
And the reason why we had to do that, because we wanted to inform not just the people of Sierra Leone that the government they're dealing with is filthy corrupt, but that we are dealing with a rogue establishment by itself.
Right.
So don't be surprised. So they will do everything to make sure that if they have their way, this kind of conversation will not even continue.
Yes.
This kind of work will not even, in fact, their greatest surprise is the fact that we have sustained the publication of the details of the government progressively,
yeah,
for a period that is now going to 3 years, effectively, almost every day, every week.
Yes.
And with new record. And every time they keep wondering. So their response was, there must be people in the government who were working with the Africanist Press. And to the extent that they have dismissed over 175 internal auditors. They went as far as suspending, you would now call it sacked.
Yeah.
The Auditor General and one of the two of the most senior auditors in the country. And right now, as we speak, we have a country with no legitimate Auditor General.
Yes.
And the Parliament, so you should not ask why Parliament has not even acted on the reports of the Africanist Press. You should ask why parliamentarians, both in the opposition and in the ruling party, have not considered the fact that they should invite the audit service to question them regarding the basis on which an unqualified auditor, who is not a chartered
accountant
or whatever you might call, somebody who is
right,
not competent to serve as an Auditor General, has been imposed
yes,
on the audit service as head of the audit service. The Parliament does not think that that is a violation. From September last year to now, it's nearly a year. We have somebody who is supposedly acting illegitimately as head of the audit service, and Parliament does not think that's a problem.
No. They would tweet about it.
No one in the Parliament
right,
has bothered to question why they have an unqualified auditor, unqualified individual serving as head of the audit service. Up to this point, that individual has even if the individual is qualified, nobody should serve in the capacity of an Auditor General without the approval of Parliament.
Exactly. Because it's not certified to.
So basically, we have a country where there is no audit service. So apart from this senior auditor, the Auditor General and the Deputy Auditor, we have a situation where over 175 internal auditors across government, from State House, from the Office of the President to the Minister of Finance, who have been dismissed, suspended illegitimately. Some of their complaints have been sent to the Public Service Commission. I have documents of committee reports, investigations that were supposedly done unfairly by the Public Service Commission, who found these people not guilty of the accusation that they were agents of the Africanist Press in government. So basically, in as much as Parliament and all these politicians have been keeping silent, they have been carrying out a silent purge, an operation to harass civil servants and weed out people who they suspect were operatives of the Africanist Press in the administration to the extent that they dismantled the entire internal audit structure of the government. So we have a government with no transparency mechanism, internal transparency. The Anti-Corruption Commission is not an anti-corruption commission. The audit service that was supposedly taking record of government transaction,
it's not there.
Been dismantled.
Yes.
The Parliamentary Account Committee has been disabled. We are running a government with no transparency mechanism.
Absolutely.
Parliament, let's forget about even any other thing. Parliamentarians will have decided to question why up to now, more than almost getting to a year, let's forget about whether Laura Telopias and Tamba Momo were procedurally suspended or not suspended, or the matter is in court. Why are they not bothered with the fact that we have an institution like the Audit Service that is led by an unqualified individual, an individual who has not been approved by Parliament, who has not gone before Parliament for approval, who is supposedly acting on the wish
of the president.
And will of the president.
Yes.
Nobody occupies a public office as a substantive head for that long without approval of Parliament. So that illegality,
Brother Cheno, if we say if we say we branch out, you know how it is. That this conversation is like, it has so many branches. But let's not branch out because we've already done about an hour, right? We like you said, this is a consistent campaign, and we're going to keep this fire burning. And this is what we want to encourage Sierra Leoneans. Take this fight to your members of parliament, call them, ask them why everything you're listening to, because that is the responsibility on yours as a people as well. We're doing what we can do. It is your responsibility to take these questions now to your members of parliament. We're not doing this for fun. We have other things to do. Chernobyl it's a sacrifice we're all making. Everybody has a responsibility. Let us do what we're supposed to do. But Brother Cheno, let us switch to this conversation. Let's switch up this conversation. I'm going to put for you on the screen here what we have. Of course, this was when, you had to get the, organization, the committee to protect journalists, basically, because, of course, journalists are being attacked across the globe. We're going to talk about this later on. But the goal, basically, right now is for us to bring, this Sierra Leone risk legal default, on incomplete renovations of diplomatic mission. And we want to update Sierra Leoneans today because as we're speaking to you guys right now, we have this, a publication that came, and it's very important that we share this with you guys. Let me put this again on the screen so you guys can see exactly what we're talking about. It is the ruling from a judge, right, Brother Cheno? A ruling from a judge that just came today to your desk, and this is it right here.
Yes, I want you to project it on the screen so people will see it.
Yes, let's project this on the screen so everybody can see it. It's on the screen now. And let me it's all yours, Brother Cheno.
Yeah, thank you very much. What you are looking at there is basically we already know that the neighbors to the Sierra Leone embassy or the Sierra Leone diplomatic mission in New York had sued the embassy or the government of Sierra Leone on the basis that the failure of the government to complete the renovation has endangered their living situation as neighbors to the extent that now they are no longer safe in their house. So they had taken the embassy to court on this situation. But this is the thing, the government, we already know the fraudulent nature of how this question or this issue has been translated in Freetown, to the extent that the individuals who are responsible for this situation have not been held responsible, have not been held to account. No. Instead, the government has decided to arrest or to use this case, just like they have used all of the other stories we've published, as an opportunity to harass the opposition. In this case, an opposition politician who they feared, who poses in their own imagination the most significant threat to their continuation in office. But before I come to that, let me just talk about this. This afternoon, the court in New York just sent me the judgment of Edgardo Ramos the presiding judge in this case in the Southern District Court of New York. Last year, when the neighbors took the embassy to court, one of the neighbors, in fact, we are talking about one of the neighbors. By the way, we have 21 neighbors who have sued the government of Sierra Leone regarding the danger of that this building has posed as a consequence of the renovation, incomplete renovation, or the so-called fake effort to renovate the building, which was started in the year 2020. So in the court, as you can see in that screen, this was issued today on the 1st of July. Can you go down to the bottom of the page so they can see the date?
All right.
So, and you can see the summary of the decision. The neighbors had asked for an injunction. And the government had hired a lawyer, and their argument was that they could not be sued, regardless of the fact that the renovation activity, has actually posed a threat to the neighbors. So they refused to accept responsibility for what they had done in this neighborhood by creating a health hazard to their neighbors, because they had pretended that they were doing a renovation that was incomplete. So one of the neighbors, the Harvey family, who live closer to this embassy building, decided to sue the embassy because the embassy has been unable to provide them with a clearly defined date when this building was going to be completed. By the way, this construction we are talking about that caused this health hazard to the community in Manhattan was started in the year 2020, when Ali Kaba was actually head of the mission. And if you look at the court records, you will see that in the petition filed by this family, by the Harvey family, they even mentioned several meetings they held with the embassy and the contractors, because now as I speak, even the contractors have countersued the government because the government has put them in a bad situation where their company has been dragged to court and they were hired to carry out a construction and they had not received money from the government. So which means the more than $4.6 million that was transferred in 2019 by the BO government to New York, none of that was given to the embassy. So like kids started pretending that they can't do renovation in 2019.
Right.
They take the money. 2020, they make no money. They go take this company. They can't do something. And the company did the scaffolding, and then the government refused to pay. The building became incomplete. So up to now, they haven't explained what has happened to that $4.6 million. Instead, they are starting in 2011, and they had arrested or taken people, Sabura Kamara, to court. But as we speak, today, the government then hired a lawyer in New York, a law firm, to go and argue for them that they have diplomatic immunity. So, which means they're not diplomats there.
Yeah.
Let the building not destroy other people in building there and not threaten the lives of the neighborhood. Therefore, left them free. You don't understand? They have immunity. Therefore, do and power and left. Meanwhile, they are arresting somebody in Freetown and putting that person and people in trial, an opposition politician, while they are saying they should not be tried in New York for the destruction they have caused to the neighborhood. So they even hired and paid money to a law firm to argue that they should be left alone because they are diplomats, they have diplomatic immunity. Now, after a year, today, the judge has ruled that they do not have the immunity they were claiming because the situation of the building and the activity, the construction activity, has actually endangered the lives and the property of American citizens in New York. And it's the responsibility, regardless of whatever Vienna Convention that applies, it's also the responsibility of the US state, the US government, to protect, or the New York state government to protect its own citizens.
Absolutely.
So now the judge has ruled and dismissed the claim of the government of Sierra Leone and its diplomatic officials that they have diplomatic immunity to cause that havoc that they have caused. So now the judge has also ordered that the case should continue. If you look at the date for can you please read that, Ibrahim, the last so I was sent this to tell me that the hearing is coming up. because I get regular updates on the situation because they know.
Right. Do you want me to read the conclusion?
Yes, just the conclusion.
All right. So
where it says the case,
for the foregoing reasons, the missions actually, it's nice to give it a context. Let's see. Daily Gable. Okay, so however, the court agrees with the mission that the RVs, that is the family that sued them, have not demonstrated irreparable harm as they have not identified actual imminent threats that cannot be remedied through monetary damages. While the RVs summarily allege that defendants are interfering with their ability to use and enjoy their home, document 162 at 19, they have not identified any ways in which their interference is actively occurring. Indeed, at the most recent conference with the parties, counsel for the RVs represented that the RVs are still living in the home without irreparable harm. The court cannot order a preliminary injunction, so the RV's motion is denied. However, conclusion, for the foregoing reasons, the mission's motion to dismiss is denied. The RV's motion for contempt and sanctions is denied in large part as described above, and the motion for a preliminary injunction is denied. The parties are directed to appear for a telephonic status conference on July 15th, 2022 at 11:30 a.m. The parties are directed to dial that number and that when prompted.
So basically, a three set of prayers. The Harveys, we don't ask make them give the embassy an injunction for stop the ongoing activities. Now that has been revoked, and the mission also say themselves they claim diplomatic immunity should not be sued. Now the judge say that also is denied.
Everybody.
So now they get a court hearing on that.
On the 15th.
When is the date for the hearing?
The 15th, July 15th.
The 15th of July. So in fact, there is an open this number. I will share them to people in a salon or everybody in the US. You can call and attend the hearing by phone. So make sure you read the case SF.
Absolutely.
So I know what happened. So you can read that number.
The number is right here. 877-411-9748. Again, the phone number that you can actually call. If you're calling from outside Sierra Leone, it's definitely +1 877-411-9748. You need this access code. This is very important. You need an access code. Yes.
When you call the access code, it will definitely the court secretary or registrar will definitely then let you in. But show them the time, and I will appeal that since you get this document now, remind people when the date comes, because it good makes Sierra Leoneans within the US, outside of the US, make them get access to the court proceedings in New York, so they will know the details of this case and what the government is hiding regarding the situation in New York, as much as they promote the situation at Sierra Leone.
Absolutely.
So they know the embarrassment and the history of it, because the details of the proceedings in New York is different from the details of the proceedings, the so-called court case where anti-corruption against alone.
Exactly.
So it is good that we, in the interest of transparency, let us bring the court proceedings in New York to Sierra Leoneans within the US, in Europe, or anywhere in the world that have an interest and the opportunity for call. Make them call that number on that date and the time. So I will hope that I shared that document with you. I will also going to share it in the Africanist Press. We'll publish in my Facebook page so that people who are interested will keep that number and the details so that they can call in on that. They make them attend the court proceedings.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, again, guys, when the live is done, I would edit the title to include that phone number and the code and everything. But like the Africanist, like Chenoba said, we'll continue reminding ourselves. Everybody, we have a responsibility. Let us remind ourselves about this date, July 15th. Very important. It is 2 weeks from now, right? July 15th at 11:30 a.m. The phone number is there, 877-411-9748. All right. So, Brother Cheno, so what I want to do now, let us go to the comparison that you've made, the point that you've made here. What is being, in court, what is in court in the United States is totally different from what is in court in Sierra Leone. You see, again, the capture of the judiciary. And this is very important for Sierra Leoneans to note and the international community to note this, because again, the number one cause of the rebel war was the police and the judiciary. You see how the judiciary has been captured and it's being used against political opponents. People that they think, of course, they know pose a threat to the presidency of President Bio, because they know somebody like Dr. Samura Kamara. We're being upfront with this. We're not hiding this. We're not going to play hanky-panky with this. We want to go straight to the point. Someone like Dr. Samura Kamara, who almost won the elections. I mean, up till this day, NEC has not announced the election results. But Bio supposedly had only less than 2% lead in the last elections. And this was, like the Africanist Press keeps saying, these were times when the APC was so unpopular. Imagine in 4 years what has happened now. So Dr. Samura Kamara is in the forefront. And that is why, again, we're not going to go into that, Brother Cheno, but we know that a lot of some of these members of parliament, some members of the opposition, they are actually conniving. They've connived with the government to actually go against somebody like Dr. Samura Kamara because they have their own political agenda come 2028 or whatever the case may be. But as far as they know, they don't want this man to be the next president. And unfortunately, he is the one the people of Sierra Leone have their eye on. When you say today Samura Kamara, I mean, wherever he goes, it is something else. So the president and the government have seen this. And so they are using the judiciary as a weapon against this man. It is very important that we point these things out. And we want you guys to know that there are members within his own political party that are actually fighting against this vision of the people of Sierra Leone. So that is why it is very important. Let me share a picture so you guys can see what I'm talking about. This was one of the photos where he's in court of Dr. Samura Kamara, in court there. So these are people being, harassed, supporters that escort him to court being fired with tear gas and all of that. There are tons of videos along that line, right? But Chenoba, talk to us about this. Because again, what is, in court in America is totally different from what is actually happening on the ground in Sierra Leone. But then we look at this, we know Ali Kaba is a key player. But up till today in Sierra Leone, Ali Kaba has not been called. Why is that? This is the man who transferred money to the point where he transferred money to his own brothers in a business. Talk to me, Brad.
Yeah, I think that is the problem we get when politics and justice get entangled in the country. So it will have. That is why I think it is important for us to share the court information to citizens of Sierra Leone so they will be able to have access to both sides of the story as they are unfolding. Because the unfortunate part, when we reported this evidence about the transactions that were moved from Freetown to New York on the guise of renovating the embassy, we were not talking about any other evidence of any transaction that happened around any other time other than transactions that happened in 2018 and 2019 under the BO administration. And we've shown that evidence, and nobody has denied that evidence. And as far as we are concerned, the individuals who are responsible for those transactions, none of them are on trial. I mean, the two previous ministers of finance and the diplomats who were in charge of the embassy in New York were not brought to book. So it's a clear case of not addressing the actual crime itself, but using evidence of a crime committed by individuals in the government to hold another individual unnecessarily for a particular crime that individual has not was not actually involved in this case, in this particular chancery case that was reported by the Africanist Press.
Mm-hmm.
And the transactions in New York, the details of the proceedings in New York makes no mention of anything like what is being discussed in Freetown.
Yeah.
So this is why it is important for people to begin to go beyond what the government is just saying to them, so they will have access to information on both ends of the world. So then that will begin to bring them to a different understanding.
Right.
We talk about corruption because we are opposed to corruption at every level, including corruption committed by any individual.
Right.
And which is why we were out there talking about corruption in the days of the APC, but it is dishonest And it's not good for a country when politicians in power decide to weaponize the instruments of the state, and especially in this case, the fight against corruption, as a tool to attack their opponents. You cannot use corruption as a guise to fight against competitive politics.
No.
To fight against multi-party politics.
Right.
So that in itself is wrong. And it is right for the people of Sierra Leone to have access to the accurate information. So they will be armed with the necessary information and knowledge and understanding to be able to make a judgment call, and also to be able to hold their leaders, both in the opposition and outside of the opposition, accountable, rightly accountable for their activities, both in the past and in the present. So that is what I would say. But let me just say that we intend to hold a conversation this coming Thursday as part of the Africanist Press ongoing series, if you allow me to use your platform, your
sure, absolutely,
that announcement, to talk about specifically state capture, how state capture and the 2023 elections, how the current situation that we are looking at, the fight against corruption, the media, and all of these events are relative to the next elections. How the internal dynamics of political parties are tied to the crucial elections of 2023. Because if we are unable to assess these institutional situations, organizational situations in our country, we will not be able to understand what kind of choices and what kind of positions that we are supposed to take in moving our country forward. I have said, I have laid out, like I think you mentioned in that video, in which I mentioned why the political climate in Sierra Leone looks very hostile and very toxic.
Yeah.
As it is right now, because the interest groups are many, both intra-party struggles and inter-party struggles, and also the competition among politicians, both within the opposition and outside of the opposition, in pursuit of their own individual ambitions against
the will of the people,
the general welfare of the country.
Absolutely.
And again, we are faced, this is happening under a president who is very unpopular, who came to power with a narrow margin. If we have to take the elections of 2018 as the yardstick for assessment, on 2 rounds of the election, the current president was unable to lead his leading opponent, Samura Kamara, with not more than 2% or not even up to 2% in both rounds. So what that would have required is that the president would have organized a government program on consensus, building consensus, but he has not been able to galvanize the country. He has not been able to mobilize support.
Absolutely not.
And has gone about dividing the country. And in the process, now that he's facing an election, and his inability to also address the economic challenges of the country has even worsened the economic situation in the country, has made it much more unpopular, and he's facing the possibility, the guaranteed possibility of defeat.
Absolutely. One time.
So that is why the government is fighting desperately to remain in power. They do not care about anything other than how to retain power.
Yep.
And that means they are going to build alliances with other desperate groups.
Yep.
Including even factions, different factions of the opposition, different sectors of the media. And this is why you see this perennial silence, why you will have an unqualified individual heading the audit service and nobody is saying anything.
No.
In civil society.
Yes.
You have all these atrocities happening and there is silence.
Yep.
It would not have happened if we had a qualitative democratic environment, a competitive political environment, an environment that supports free speech, that supports multi-party politics, that supports, competition.
Yep, I agree. Healthy debate.
But because the president is unpopular, unable to galvanize support, unable to mobilize support, has decided to terrorize citizens and has made himself unpopular as unacceptable. So he has made it difficult for himself.
Yeah.
And now he tries to identify anyone who he thinks is a target that is standing and is using now extra legal, extra constitutional, and illegal methods.
Yeah.
To exclude. That is why we were debating the other day the question of the inclusion of the national identification number.
Yes.
Because the government now spends its time and energy and resources thinking about rogue methods to remain in power.
Yeah. How?
Including how to eliminate possible contenders.
Absolutely.
How to exclude voters, how to suppress voters. All of this.
Yes.
Deals with the unpopularity of the government, the incapacity of the president to govern.
Absolutely.
To govern as a national leader, as a leader of all Sierra Leoneans.
Yeah.
So now he has made himself, he has defeated his own agenda.
Uh-huh.
And this is what hegemonic politics does
to a country
who believe in hegemonic enterprise.
Yeah. Bring my brothers.
And with the challenge that citizens have posed, and with new technology and new community of consciousness, it is impossible for him to continue that way.
Absolutely.
So, I don't know if I know we've exhausted the time.
Absolutely, we have. Let me play this short video here real quick. This was what happened to Dr. Samura Kamara supporters when they accompanied him to court.
Now, the camp people except say, Lord man push, Lord man up, the open, the fire tear gas, then foot directly, foot CSO security for Sambura. When I see them, and fire foot, look on and foot. And I mean, they make peace. They talk to everybody, say, the Lord man come down, Lord man push, and fire. So they send them worldwide, Lord man see them, and Lord man send them all over. CSO for Sambura, and then fire and foot to tear gas. Look what they're doing, no matter what, if you don't swear, this good thing. And they team up, maybe they advise people and say, Lord man calm down, Lord man peaceful, Lord man wait, Lord man patient, nobody don't make alala, nobody don't make confusion. You only stand for peace, then they can't damage you if you got agree. And they say that all over the Lord man see.
You don't see, as we tell you now, let them papa, but we serious jaggers, serious one. Let them fire. We not do that nothing. We sit up. We sit up with the passing for we next president to be at this country. I can't give command. I just so full and I can't give order. As it comes, I say let them fire, let us scatter we. Let them fire. We not do nothing. We not offend nobody. We not talk to police. We sit up with the play.
So with everything, guys, we're going to end this live here. It's a little bit late, but we just wanted to paint the picture. If you don't take anything from this live, what you should take is this. At the end of the day, why is it that members of parliament could not sum up the courage to open up investigations or use the data, the material from the Africanist Press to go out there and campaign, especially in an election period like this? Why is it that members of parliament have not been able to set up committees? These are the questions you guys should ask yourselves. But I want to thank you guys. I want to thank Cherno. I want to thank everybody for joining us. Go back and watch the live again, listen to this. But this is a continuous fight. And like Cherno said, they're going to continue these conversations. And when we get those information, we'll share with you guys so you guys can join them on those lives. But we just wanted to paint this picture so you guys can see exactly what it is. But Sierra Leoneans, it is our responsibility to ensure that we all are members of parliament accountable. And I want to take this opportunity to thank Honorable Abdul Kagbo and Honorable AKK because they took the time to come out and talk about some of these issues. We all know about the election bill that is going on. The public, all these the two bills that are tabled, the Elections Act and the Political Party Acts of 2002 and the Elections Act of 2012. We know about all of these things in parliament, but we see the efforts that these members of parliament are now making to ensure that the SLPP does not pass a bill that's going to disenfranchise the voters of Sierra Leone. And that is what we want the international community to understand. NIN numbers and all of that. But we know the strategy of these guys, and we're going to take the fights to them at every opportunity, at every level, every strata that they take these fights to. We're going to take this fight to them. So, guys, thank you. Share the live, everybody. And let's leave it here. But this is why we wanted to do what we do. Go ask your members of parliament to hold these governments accountable, to speak up about the Africanist Press. Ask your political leaders in opposition, why is it that they cannot even sum up the courage to mention the Africanist Press? Your opposition MPs, your leaders in parliament, ask them this question. Why can they not even mention the name of the Africanist Press, Chernobyl, in their deliberations? None of them could mention the Africanist Press in their deliberations. We want to challenge you guys to go and talk to them so we can get this going. Because elections is around the corner. They need to use that information to talk to the people, let them know the corruption of this government through the Africanist Press. The Africanist Press has made it very easy for them. They don't even have to do anything. All the publications are out there, guys. If I take you to the website of the Africanist Press, it is all there. Every month, one publication after the other. Every month, one publication after the other. But these guys have not been able to sum up the courage to speak up about these things. It is a shame. But again, like I said, we are waiting to see what members of parliament are going to do. And you guys saw the letter, the ruling from the judge. What is happening in America in the court system there is totally different from what is happening in Sierra Leone. You know, so guys, these are the things we want you guys to point out. What's it happening in America? Ali Kaba and all the people them, in brother them, the business entities them were involved, pandemony. Now Dr. Samura Kamara and DBN saying that him. Man will not be there again in office. Why? Because they're using the judiciary. They have a plan. We know what the plan is, but we are waiting for them. They're trying to eliminate people from running in the next elections. We are waiting for them. As they come with it, we'll deliver. We know what they're doing. So Sierra Leoneans, thank you everybody. But this is why we do what we do. And my next live I'm going to do separately by myself. I want to talk about the healthcare conditions in Sierra Leone. It's terrible. The videos are coming up every day. I know the SLPP is not going to do anything about it. But the reason why I'm going to do that live, hopefully by Tuesday or Wednesday of next week, is to point it out to you guys as Sierra Leoneans in the diaspora also, so we can, let's talk to like the mercy ships, mercy ships, right? These international organizations that can actually help these people, so that they can help them. Because the SLPP government is not going to think about helping anybody anymore. They are focused on election, how to rig elections. And that is why we're calling on you guys as, Sierra Leoneans to see what we can do to help these people. Because if anything, the area that I'm passionate about, so Manufala begin to talk to you now. The area we're passionate about, now the healthcare. Then if I get an opportunity for law, intervene inside it to ensure that at constituency level, district level, zonal level, we're going to ensure that every Sierra Leonean get access to healthcare. That is my biggest passion. We should not sit by and watch these kids. Like I say, in my next live, I'll do it again. It's going to be a tough one, guys. Brace yourself because you're going to see these images. You have to watch these images. See the sufferings of our people. And that was why when members of parliament talking about welfare bill, come on, guys. Please don't talk about welfare bill. Expose the other members of parliament that are actually using the government to get medical care, whilst you guys are struggling or suffering. Expose them so the people will see. But there are tons of Sierra Leoneans, thousands, millions of Sierra Leoneans lack access to healthcare. Simple work, dental work, them simple things. People lack access to them. And that is the fundamental reason why it's important for us to talk about these things. So everybody, I just want you to take this opportunity to understand that it's very crucial. It is very important on our part that we take actions necessary to ensure that we help our people. But listen to what they're doing. Ask your members of parliament. It is important that we talk to them. Let us ask these questions. Why is it that they cannot venture to talk about the Africanist Press? Why can they not open up committees about the Africanist Press with all the corruptions that are there, all the publications that are there? These guys have ruined the country forever, guys. So I'm going to leave this live right here, guys. But these are the pains that we're going through. This is the suffering of our people. My next live is going to be about the healthcare sector and everything that is happening, because I don't want us to focus so much on politics and forget about the people that actually need us. The people are suffering. The people are in pain. They need us. And we have to pay attention to them. So I miss all the political upheavals, the brouhaha, all the shouting and screaming. People are suffering. And in my next live, that is what I want to point out. But we know that members of parliament, we're giving them some time. To the next time we bring them back, Fukane can talk to we about, who side this political party act and the election act who side in a parliament, because we don't want them. The people of Sierra Leone are opposed to PR system. We don't want them. The one who gets a constituency kind of electioneering processing right now, it is difficult for the people to live with their parliament, let alone a proportional representation. When the political party, the people are going to represent the people. We don't want that. We're not going to side. We're not going to tolerate it, because we know that the SLPP, they've seen how the European Union observers are standing over the boxes. So they're finding other ways to rig the next elections. And we cannot let them do that. All right, guys. So thank you. I'm going to leave it right here. It's been a long day. It's been a really, really long day. But next Wednesday or Tuesday or Wednesday, I'll come to you guys and talk to you. And so we can do that live about the healthcare sector in Sierra Leone and the people that are actually suffering and see what we can do about them. But at the same time, don't forget, guys, all of my projects I've put on hold. You know, my orphanage, all of that thing, because everything is moving so fast. You know, the house is there, it's still vacant. You know, I need to do some work on it. I still have my GoFundMe page. It is there. Just so you guys don't forget about that. Share that GoFundMe page with other folks around so that they can help us to raise funds, because I don't want it to be just a set of people. But the GoFundMe page is there. If you really want to help us out, you know, to be sure that, you know, our people get the kind of help that they need. The GoFundMe page is there. Let me just share with you guys so you guys can see it. But it's right there. And, you know, so you guys can see what I'm saying. But this is the GoFundMe page, guys. You know, we've already spent that money. Some of that went to Ramadan, and then the $300 went to like the, you know, house to do some repairs and paintings and stuff like that. But the orphanage is still there. It is still part of the plans that I have. But everything is moving so fast, we tend to forget about these things. But please, guys, that is my dream. That is my vision. So if you don't know, at least now you know. And at least at some point, you can find time to go visit the page. Again, it is Don't Let Them Die. If you go on GoFundMe.com, you can just search Don't Let Them Die. And also, don't forget that we have the Satalamin page. For those of you guys that have listened to the story of Satalamin, the GoFundMe page is there also as well. Search for Satalamin rape victim. It is there on GoFundMe. Satalamin rape victim. You'll see it there. So I just want to thank everybody. You know, I want you to know these are the things that I'm passionate about. These are the projects that I'm working on. And the people need us. These kids need us. There's a lot of orphans in that country. They need us. But we know the politics get so fast. Everything is moving so fast. We tend to forget, but I haven't forgotten. I want you all to understand that. I want you all to know that. So thank you, everybody. I appreciate you. Go ahead, you know, share the live. Let people take from what they could take from this. But there's a lot of work to do, and we're not going to get fed up. We're not going to get tired. SLPP, everywhere they take us, we're going to go, but we're going to stay focused, right? The census is there. It is illegal. It's not a legal census. The World Bank condemned it. European Union condemned it. Nobody not support this census. It's crap. It failed on its face. It is not there. We know one time. So now they want to go to boundary delimitations. They want to go to all of these things they're doing. But we are watching them and we're taking it on. But the responsibility that we have, the problems that we have is the parliament. Parliament has to be proactive so that it can stop these guys on their tracks. We need a proactive parliament, and that is what people like the Honorable AKKs, Honorable Abu Kagbo, that is what they've been doing over the past 2 days, taking the fight head on so that we're not going to allow the SLPP again for bomb rush their way through with anything. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye. And I'm going to leave it here, and I'm going to leave this video with you guys so you guys would watch and listen to the president again on CNN whilst he was trying to defend his wife and the chief minister. Listen to this and share the live, guys. I love you guys. Everybody take care of yourselves, okay? All right.
You promised, and one of your campaign slogans was to really try to root out corruption in Sierra Leonean government. You investigated your predecessor's administration. You made it a focus, especially early on. Fast forward 3 years, looking around you, what do you think Sierra Leoneans make of how you have handled corruption?
Well, corruption was endemic in this country. It was fashionable. It was a way of life. What we have done, or what I have done, is to make it very risky. It's to make it difficult and to make it not fashionable anymore. With the use of the Anti-Corruption Commission, we have been able to recover quite a lot of money from those who acquired monies illegally. When we came in, they rated us. Our control of corruption index was about 47%. Today, we are in the 80s. In the past 3 years, we have made progress every year.
President Bio, though, your chief minister has been accused of corruption, and your wife, the First Lady, has also been accused of corruption, misusing public funds. How are they being held accountable?
It is easy to accuse or make allegations that any member of my family or the government is corrupt. we have a system. You have to prove that, you have to produce evidence. So without that, I can say you are corrupt, even when I cannot see. I hardly have any dealings to do with you. Whenever there is any claim of corruption, the Anti-Corruption Commission is free to go and investigate, and where there is evidence of wrongdoing, as far as monies are concerned for the state, we will take action.
So let me get this straight. If it is proven, President Bio, if it is proven, that the Chief Minister and the First Lady, your wife, have actually misused public funds, how will they be held accountable?
Well, there's a prescription for whatever happens. If that is the case, and it's proven in a court of law or by the commission, they either ask to pay for it, or there are different forms of punishment for that. And they will have to.
On top of that, you recently hired a brand new finance minister who was accused of long-standing corruption in the previous administration. What message does that send to Sierra Leoneans?
Again, you've used the word accused. And he has had to go through a very long legal process to prove that he is not guilty. So, like I said earlier, it is easier. Anybody can make such claims, outlandish claims, or that the other person is corrupt. But we are a law-abiding country, and we go through the entire length to make sure that when claims or allegations are made, we prove them in a court of law, and then we take the necessary actions.
You promised, and one of your campaign slogans was to really try to root out corruption in Sierra Leonean government. You investigated your predecessor's administration. You made it a focus, especially early on. Fast forward 3 years, looking around.
National treasury, that is hundreds of thousands of US dollars, have been illegally used to furnish the office of the First Lady. The allegations, which are made by the US-based organization Africanist Press, also say the same office received millions of dollars from the national treasury, despite it not being a public office. Umaru Fofana has been looking at the allegations.
I'm sitting in my car along the Freetown Peninsula. This is Bendembo Junction. Here, overlooking the Atlantic Ocean, is a 3-story cream-colored building. On its gate is a palm print with the inscription, "Hands Off Our Girls." There are armed security personnel keeping guard outside the building. This is the office of the First Lady of Sierra Leone.
Billions of leones, that is hundreds of thousands of US dollars, are alleged to have gone into furnishing the office of Fatima Maadabio, as contained in the Africanist Press. The publication says the amount is part of millions of dollars from the Central Treasury that have gone into running an office which is not a public office and so cannot and should not be funded with taxpayers' money. Cherna Alphaba is the editor-in-chief of the Africanist Press. He gave me the highlights of their report via WhatsApp from the United States.
In the last 2.5 years of the administration, at least a total of $3 million of government funds were illegally disbursed to the office of the First Lady. We were able to see that, for example, in 2018, a total of $789,000 that were disbursed from the consolidated fund to the organization. We have spent in 6 months on furnishing the office of the First Lady on questions of electronic equipment, on fuel, travel tickets, and hotel accommodation costs for foreign guests of the President's wife. According to the laws of Sierra Leone, the financial regulations, a non-state institution is not authorized to receive public funding.
But Fatima Bio has strenuously denied any wrongdoing.
You are in my office, and I don't think you can spend $700. I don't even know how much the money was that he was talking about. What I have here, I have a desk, I have a sofa chair for people to sit, and I have a conference table here. It's definitely not true.
Chernobyl has further alleged that money that should have gone into the fight against the widespread sexual abuse of girls went into ostentatiousness.
The public money that was given to the organization for the fight against rape and teenage pregnancy were mostly spent on personal shopping needs. But most importantly, both the disbursement, the budgetary allocations were in violation of the finance laws of the country, and the utilization of the funds, did not follow the finance regulations, especially the Public Finance Management Act.
The First Lady explained to us how she receives money for the running of her office.
As far as I know, every First Lady before me, when they want something, they go to State House and they write. The office of the First Lady is part and parcel of the presidency. So if you want a table, you write to the office of the president. They buy the table and they brings it. How it is sourced, who sourced it, how much was paid, that is not my own concern because they don't consult me on those things.
So the office did receive funding from the Consolidatory Revenue Fund, but through the office of the president. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying my office writes to the office of the president. So where they got the money from, I don't know. I wasn't there. I don't know where they took it from.
How about when you launched your Hands Off Our Girls campaign, which is to protect young girls against predatory men? You invited some West African first ladies to attend. Did you pay for their flights and accommodation?
I paid for the accommodation. That is what happened to when I visit them. The President of the Republic of Sierra Leone puts together the Hands Off Our Girl campaign. I am the face of the project.
So you're sure that all the procurements that happened legally, procedurally?
Like I said, those are questions that only the office of the president can answer.
I contacted the office of the president through the head of communication, Dr. Patrick Mwana. He assured me that the information minister would talk. Following a meeting at State House, apparently on the interview request, Information Minister Mohamed Rahman Soare called me to say no one would take the interview. I contacted the head of the Anti-Corruption Commission, Francis Benkaifala, to know whether or not they had looked into the matter. Not yet, he said, adding, and I quote, "The office is captured under audit and we will do her part as part of that review process."
Africa's politics have fallen into the hands of elites, as the Nigerians would call them. These are a class of people who are pure business politicians, and business and politics go together in Africa. You cannot stand as a poor man. I came across a wonderful example the other day from Kenya, where a man who cycled around on a bicycle was trying to get himself elected, and the people just laughed at him and they say, "You've only got a bicycle. What can you do for us? We need a big man with a big car with money. That's the politician we need to." So there's this mentality, which I think has allowed a very small group of people to take over those countries politically, but also economically, and that's why you have something like, I think the World Bank says, between 60 and 70% of Africa's capital shifted out of the continent. It's in banks in Europe and Asia and maybe America as well. But these people just do what the colonialists did, which was suck the wealth out and shift it overseas. And until that changes, that is, until there's a new generation or even a revolution that actually takes power back to African people, I think those problems are
fine. Thank you. Yes. Now that would ever go. Yes.
I say sad don't come inside the pantry. Now banga for the day, but sad no go there.
Okay. So I say that you go better.
Now man talk not to me, you talk. Now bush talk.
But is it you know for the
pantry now you get
the government was about
pantry now you get
the Christian government.
The pantry now God get tabakana.
Now we get the party.
The healer now that get
Now we get the party.
Where the pantry the sang. God don't bring the sign inside the pantry.
Afternoon, people, and good afternoon. And they say Kamasigi town out of Kamasigi village. I do it's one of my teacher staff. They call him Mr. Mohammed Sisi himself. And it bring me na a village, you know, and inside Kamasigi, then deep villages. And man, I don't believe, you know, Kamasigi said itself na village. And it bring me aside now when I Kamasigi like na a city to the village. Look how people they live. You know, some of them leaders them. Yeah, some of them tell more they put in the media. Make people know, say with people and then they in need. You know, look how young companies Sierra where they get right like we see. Young girl like this, look at the situation. What your age, mama?
Me not 20 years.
20 years, mama. Tell my sister, turn. 20 years. When I see you in Facebook, you gonna know say the situation. Mama, you want to say something?
Yes, sir.
Talk.
Because we right now, we they suffer. The condition we they right now. Me like me so, my papa in the when been there in the I be the go school na makini me been there, but right now we don't die. No get no help. Now so sufferness now dey.
When I see, can you imagine? And I see in Pekin, where he born in your Pekin. See the woman in your house now. Look. You see the woman house. We citizens, we your Sierra Leonean citizens, the same right we get in this country. This young girl live there. See. And look. Huh? Look. What we grab to say life not easy for we. Now abroad. You see how possible they live? Na your property and they were look. We get to sober kitchens them. Look, I'm looking kitchen. We say the ball, we say the sleep, now the kitchen day. Now that make me own life, I just feel say a rich man on my heart. I not rich here, I get cash, no. But where they see them here, they change my mind for me could show them, look, see the picking they are happy and some of them picking in abroad and you give them some tea biscuit cake, they're not happy. You know, look the woman in your office, marshal in your office. Look, you see farm, the offices. Now what's it? Now they
now rest with the buy 3,500 for company. I would buy 15,000. They buy 5 liters for that full money. No problem. Get my people will suffer like that. You man they will suffer. Mama will suffer. Samura come out. To you, Mina Ibrahim Yaya Bendo, Mina Bombo Sabro Bobo, we say Madabio born, Ademi born, but 50 or something no do they. Madabio no do nothing, we say nothing no do they. So now we don't do some house. Samura Kamara, after God and Abina Samura Kamara, now
Look at me, Jamaican promise and Omega. We need to look at job. But everybody can we can die. 4. APC value. APC value education. The community will pick it up in the school. Oh, the love of woman them. Some of them will suffer.
As Ramadan na month for mercy and reflection, for sake of that, Dr. Samura Kamara been donate bags of rice to different mosques na Kenema. Before the donation, he been talk to the Kenema people and say he happy for meet with them. And fast month na the best time for pay visit to Muslim, cause na the time for peace, unity and love. He begins for talk more about this. Well, this now wetin Dr. Samura Kamara been say. So the Muslim people in Kenema.
First month is the best time for visit Muslim people and for visit Jama, for visit everywhere. Because first month is the time for peace, unity and forgiveness. Whether you do bad, you pray God, they forgive you. You said, whether you do bad, pray God, let you forgive them. Then they bring the world together. And actually, this particular fast month is very important to me. As a Christian also, we need to call it learn. And also the time we reflect. So these two religions, particularly for this month, it means a lot to me. This month, it means a lot to the Christians, it means a lot to the Muslims. Let God help you all. Let us obey the principles. Let God answer what we pray for and move forward. Every year, normally, I can do something for member the Muslim people there. Particularly for me, I come up from Muslim home. My mama, na Muslim, we go high. My papa, na Muslim, we go high twice. All man, na me 100 no more. But na school business, na I make also. But every year, we do for the Muslims. It's not plenty, it's small. This particular year, we'll bring some restaurant for the Imam then, for the Muslim. Then, we bring some other restaurant for the constituencies then, for the party people then. You understand it? It's not just buying a small one. Yeah, it's small, but the hearts are important. I want to tell you all, thank you. May God bless you all.
All that, the youth man them we get the highest population, and the one them waking votes, we get plenty thing for say. If we all come out na one village, then you not do nothing for we. Why we for they BNU? Then be say more about this. Me people them, this now waiting the youth man them been say. As we all know say, the voice of the youth, now the voice of the people them.
Listen, me I for APC. Me bomb APC for I for APC. Papa for this year. This year, Papa for this year. How long? Fear to go up. Where to go up? Ought to go up. You suffer.
Yeah, Fambule Muna, good afternoon. This is a small bobo where they live towards Bosol with his mama. The suicide they live. So please, this bobo now, as soon as they sound, so he need medical attention. You know well, he's sick. Julia would they plead to government. Papa government, as you they see this now, front you building, then people that they live in this shelter. You see, he eats. Then this bobo now something like just 2 years old. You understand? They need medical attention. As you see the cold, they don't swell. You see, as soon as see, it don't swell, the cold. Do you have this bobo supposed to live like any other Peking? Please, Papa government, come to the aid. This woman, if not this speaking, we can get way for help this speaking, let them help this speaking. Then you see this speaking for man. They watching company speaking them. It's supposed to live like any other Peking. You know well. Now as you see small bobo. Do you have family? Please do not help me share this video. Let it reach to for reach. Do you have people that get humanitarian feeling? Do you have, please, government, as we talk Papa government, you know government, this place no is big people in the past now they see, authority in the past here they see this kind of situation. Yeah, risks, then concerning this mobile in health. You understand? Do you have family? Help me share this video. Anybody will share this video, you will get.
It's 15:06 GMT. This is Bola Mosuro with Focus on Africa from the BBC World Service. And we start in Guinea, where Colonel Momadi Butumbuya, who led the coup on Sunday, seems to be consolidating his hold. Army officers have been installed to oversee the 8 regions and administrative districts, and the country now awaits the announcement of the transitional government that was promised yesterday. And while international bodies like the African Union, ECOWAS and United Nations have reiterated the call for a return to constitutional rule, they haven't specified whether this means the release and reinstatement of the 83-year-old President Alpha Condé. Well, Guineans who spoke to the BBC earlier today, though, they see the coup d'etat in a favourable light.
The army is there to safeguard the people and their belongings. When power gets out of control, only the army can save us. And they did what they had to do.
D'abord, je souhaite bonne chance à l'armée guinéenne.
First of all, I wish the Guinean army good luck. I hope they can bring people together and put an end to ethnocentrism, which has really ruined the country. And I hope they can improve the economy. Women are suffering, and Guinea's currency is worthless now.
Les femmes souffrent. La monnaie guinéenne n'a plus de valeur.
C'est regrettable normalement. Under normal circumstances, I think a coup would be regrettable. But it's actually less regrettable than what we've been living through. Recently, we've been suffering through a crisis that's hard to describe. There was an economic crisis. Guineans were not talking to each other. Society was totally divided. Il y avait une division totale de la société guinéenne.
The views of people in Conakry, and it's unclear whether some are also reluctant to speak to the media right now. But what's the general mood among the masses in the capital today? And is the situation still quite tense? Well, just before we came on air, I spoke to journalist Alhassan Silla in the capital.
Listen, brother, there's been a semblance of normalcy today with traffic all over the place. I mean, I've been driving around town and there are lots of traffic jams. I was held up in one. As a matter of fact, shops are open, as so as the banks and markets are full. So basically, there's a semblance of normalcy here today.
And it's quite interesting that one of the things that Colonel Doumbouya announced yesterday was that there will be no witch hunt and that those who are felt to have been perpetrators of any wickedness won't be dragged over the coals, so to speak. But I understand that today he's dismantled something that could be seen as a representative of what happened the past 2 years that really
concentrate. I hope so una know me, eh? Me na brother Yambasu. And me don't make visit to una once again. Not so? Yes. This is make 210 now, not so? Yes. So today na the 1st of July, 7 months. And Jama, me respectable brothers and sisters, eh? Me where they do this video record now, una brother in Islam Tamba Yambasu. Today na the 1st of July 2021. At the presently na Sierra Muslim Brotherhood Islamic Primary School, when I grafty, are there with this wonderful, amazing teacher, we get patience. What's a patience? For me, you see that kind of teacher there, huh? You know, easy. Now, only Allah go able to pay for we. Look the condition of the school. Now, I make her they say, you patience. Now, only Allah go pay you for we. Continue your patience for the sake of Allah, okay? Because when you pass a knowledge to the person who need them, that knowledge they can benefit them. You don't get paid from Almighty Allah. Just like what me they can do as you brother when at Tambayambasu. For can seek a help to we beloved brothers and sisters in now the diaspora. For me them go look and concentrate so then young picking there. Where one of them now then get for be a big stakeholder of them after we don't left the
una des ministers there, una des honorable presidents there. Where they come on salo, una kana Ghana for can enjoy. Una get small sickness, una they kana Ghana for can enjoy. Una watch una company how they develop. Look Ghana basically been pass. Far away. Una look Ghana. Una see how Ghana they invest in the country. Una get the people are about scatter all over the world. The people are saloon, the Ghana. Enjoy our company. The way they get an encounter see, massive infrastructure, man. See, millions, multi-million dollar project, millions of dollars. Sierra Leoneans, the two ministers and the women are the one who know. The two president and they do the money alone. Hold on about the way talk so get this together. You wanna win all the ghost of an play. You wanna win not get this, they don't get that. Now watch projects and infrastructure. Get this kind of investments and how investment. Massive. One new project, one new one.
You see?
You go beat them without a lawyer. And I'm not going to you know the work also online. We need job, Lion, we need job. Job, no rice. You go beat them without a lawyer. And I'm not going to
Inspector General of Police has assured students and school authorities of the Islamic Senior High School of thorough investigation into circumstances that led to the shooting incident in the school. Dr. George Ekufu-Dampare said the police's mandate is to protect lives and property and not cause distraction. The police chief was addressing students after armed police personnel fired live bullets in the school, leading to the hospitalization of over 20 students. Ibrahim Abubakar has more in this report.
A peaceful protest by the students to demand for erection of speed ramps on the road in front of their school rather turned violent. Armed police officers, in an attempt to disperse the students, allegedly fired tear gas at them. This infuriated some of the students, who in return pelted stones at the police. Angered by the action of the students, the police chased them on campus and fired live bullets severally. Over 20 students fell unconscious and had to be rushed to nearby hospitals.
The protests we were contesting today were just a peaceful demonstration, but we don't know where the police came from. All of a sudden, they started shooting their guns, like hitting students, all of certain, causing violence in the school. So it made the school look upside down. And some of our students were having asthma. We were lucky that the ambulance came to our aid on time. If not that, we have lost a lot of lives and a lot of students. We have to do mouth to mouth so that some of the students will come back to conscious.
During our demonstration, we didn't harm anyone. We were just blocking the way so that the government will come to our aid. They will get to realize that we are really suffering. But within a circumstance, we didn't even know what happened. The policemen just barged into our school. I quite remember I was standing up here when I saw the police trying to force themselves into the school. Is it fair to barge into someone's room like that or someone's house like that? Is this what the Constitution says? Should students be treated like this?
Parents stormed the school to demand to see their wards.
We want to enter, we want to see them at least for a phone call, and they said we should go home tomorrow. How can you sleep with a sound mind knowing that your brother or your sister or your ward is in danger? So that's all that we want. They should release them. We want to see them. We can't move an inch.
My worry is that this is Ghana police. These are the people that we trust on them. These are the people that we know that they can work for us. These are the people that we know that if there's war in Ghana, we are safely. And this is students. These are students, not more than 3,000, 5,000, and they can control them, and they are finding a live bullet.
So after standing at the entrance for several hours, demanding to see their wards, parents have eventually been allowed entry to see the status of their wards as to whether they are safe or not. Ashanti Regional Chief Imam was worried over firing of live bullets on students.
Commander no then kwada no buy no oma tututu sa kwada zu any weapon bia o mo nsam na mo tutu bo mo enya no kwa so no entu o mo nya dia na o mo ye no amro besinagu e mo nko na mo na mo nkoko enkunkum o mo kwada o mo sua de e na mo bu o mo.
The Inspector General of Police would later visit the school for a first-hand assessment of the situation. Dr. George Ekufu-Dampare also went to Suntreso, Kwadaso SDA, and Komfo-Anokye teaching hospitals to check the conditions of the victims. He later addressed the students and school authorities.
I also want to assure you that whatever happened in terms of the policing aspect of it, we are going to look into it and take all actions that need to be taken to ensure that at the end of the day, the right thing is done. Professionalism is deepened in a manner that will not create a situation that will put the life of anybody at risk. Because as police, we are here to protect life and property, and if we cannot do that, then we might have failed in our duties, in our mandate, and it is something that we don't want to do.
Most of the students have been discharged, but the condition of 2 are said to be critical. CAM has since returned to the school with academic work expected to resume on Tuesday, June 4th.
Inspector General of Police has assured students and school authorities of the Islamic Senior High School of thorough investigation into circumstances that led to the shooting incident in the school. Dr. George Ekufu-Dampare said the police's mandate is to protect lives and property and
The police officers at the CID allowed only 4 party executive members into the building. Journalists were not given access into the building at the time of obtaining statements from Mr. Lima. While speaking, the chairman and leader of the party, Dr. Prince Hardin, called for the immediate resignation of the Inspector General of Police, Francis Munu, for referring to members of the SLPP as idlers and as such cannot provide security for the electoral period, and maintained that he is disappointed at him for making such uncalled for remarks. The incident, he however maintained, has made them more robust and resilient in their campaign to winning the March 2018 general elections.
To argue, with all due respect, the statements are not reflective of voting with the expect of an IG to be able to conduct this election in the sense that policing this election. That statement that we're not going to open a useless person. I think for retractor, and I'm calling for his resignation, and we're going to move for his resignation. Okay, because a very sensitive question in it. Not only security of our people, but the security of this nation. We don't come far too far for a senior police, the most senior police officer, to call the main opposition party that we are idlers. Let me go talk. Yeah, I know we use that word panel because I'm more responsible, I'm more respected, and I'm more learned than him. With all due respect to him. For him to use that word, we take great exception to that. And we are going to write to all the international people and even the government that he needs to be removed. He does show clear partiality and he cannot handle.
At 7:15 press time, Lima was still under police custody. Supporters displayed placards venting their anger and frustration while they continued to wait to know the fate of Lima. Precious Amabel Leby reporting for Star Television. The police officers at the CID allowed only 4 party executives.
It's unacceptable a female journalist, a female citizen, a female personality whom I have sanctioned to be investigated. On behalf of the Sierra Leone Police, the management, the rank and file, we condemn that in a very strong term. We condemn it for someone to be insulting a female personality in this society. Is unacceptable and we will investigate it. He is being investigated. and he's almost on the run. We have searched for him. We have used his telephone number to call him to come and.
Yes. Televised. Oh my, what about on televised? I can't so they don't begin block the road for motor camera there. They supposed to let it pass now because of the next say you fear. You know say you fear. So you ain't fear. We give out tell you say put the fear. So now me with the lecture point, no bike, no motor camera, but no they pass. I can't so na MP to Pako Abe. Let the lecture point for the bike matter with the motor camera there. Nobody know they pass because some bike they pass, some motor they pass, you know they work out. So you give out tell you what he make. You can't on the street. How can you get fear? Because at the same one they go by the free so they sell and give gear there, they sell and 50, 45. So you come they come tell you go outside the pool fear. And we never give road to nobody. You be bike now, you be president, I buy you build. Then they give road. Yeah. They come tell you outside the pool fear. Look the chop when they done now. You see the most come at the park bagala. You see the most come at the park bagala. You see the most come at the park bagala. Look the chop when. Now what is said the later street? Like my police, Ura said nobody the partner this street. I see here. Sauna see you. Rakere so. Yes. Televised. Oh my, what about on televised? I can't so they don't begin block the road for motor camera there. They supposed to let it pass now because of the next say you fear. You know say you fear. So you ain't fear. We give out tell you say put the fear. So now me with the lecture point, no bike, no motor camera, but no they pass. I can't so na MP to Pako Abe. Let the lecture point for the bike matter with the motor camera there. Nobody know they pass because some bike they pass, some motor they pass, you know they work out. So you give out tell you what he make. You can't on the street. How can you get fear? Because at the same one they go by the